When someone disrespects you, it is very easy to take their words or actions personally. Human nature makes us feel attacked, diminished, or undervalued when we are treated poorly. But one of the most empowering truths you can internalize is this: disrespect is rarely about you. It's about the person who is giving it. People who belittle, insult, or act arrogantly toward others often reveal far more about themselves than the target of their disrespect. Think about it: when someone feels secure, balanced, and confident, they do not need to put others down. They don't need to resort to hurtful words or demeaning actions. A secure person uplifts others, celebrates differences, and communicates with respect. On the other hand, when someone lashes out or tries to undermine you, it usually stems from their own insecurities, frustrations, or lack of emotional control. In other words, they use disrespect as a shield, hoping to cover up what they lack inside themselves. For example, consider a coworker who constantly interrupts or dismisses your ideas. At first, it may feel like a direct attack on your intelligence, but if you take a step back, you may realize that their behavior comes from fear that your contributions will outshine theirs. Their disrespect is their way of trying to protect their ego. Similarly, when someone mocks or ridicules you in public, it may not be about you at all. They may be struggling with feelings of inadequacy, and by putting you down, they temporarily feel taller. Recognizing this truth doesn't excuse their behavior. It doesn't mean you should tolerate disrespect, but it gives you perspective. When you understand that their actions are a mirror of their inner struggles, you stop internalizing their negativity. Instead of asking, "What's wrong with me? Why are they treating me this way?" you shift to, "What's going on with them that makes them act like this?" That shift in perspective prevents their words from sinking into your self-worth. Another important aspect of this keynote is emotional freedom. When you stop taking disrespect personally, you free yourself from unnecessary anger and pain. You don't waste energy trying to figure out why they dislike you or proving yourself to someone who isn't interested in seeing your value. Instead, you maintain your dignity and peace of mind. This is powerful because the more you detach your identity from other people's behavior, the stronger you become. It also helps you avoid overreacting. Many times, disrespectful people are looking for a reaction. They want to push your buttons, see you lose your composure, and feed off the chaos they create. When you recognize that their disrespect reflects them, not you, you take away their power. You no longer give them the satisfaction of seeing you upset. Instead, you remain grounded, calm, and unshaken, which often leaves them frustrated and powerless. In life, you will meet people who cannot see your worth, who speak down to you, or who treat you unfairly. But their inability to value you does not lower your value. Just as a diamond remains a diamond, whether someone recognizes it or not, your worth stays intact regardless of others' opinions. The key is to separate your self-image from their actions. You are not defined by the way others treat you. You are defined by the way you choose to carry yourself in those moments. So the next time someone disrespects you, pause and remind yourself, this is not about me. This is about them. That reminder will protect your peace, preserve your confidence, and allow you to respond from a place of strength rather than weakness. And when you stop letting other people's disrespect control your emotions, you truly begin to live with unshakable self-respect. Would you like me to go ahead and expand Keynote 2 into 600 words as well, so you can keep building this into a full series? You said expand 2 Keynote into 600 words. ChatGPT said, got it. Let's expand the second Keynote, Stay Calm Under Pressure, into about 600 words. When someone disrespects you, the most natural instinct is to react immediately. Maybe your blood boils, your voice rises, or you feel the urge to argue back and defend yourself. That response is human, but it is not always powerful. The moment you let anger take control, you hand over your strength to the very person trying to belittle you. Staying calm under pressure, on the other hand, is one of the greatest demonstrations of inner power and self-control. Think about it. Disrespectful people often feed off reactions. They want to see you lose your composure because when you do, they feel they've won. By keeping calm, you deny them that victory. Calmness is not weakness, it is discipline. It shows that you refuse to be dragged into chaos or lowered to someone else's level. In fact, calmness can often disarm your opponent. When they expect you to shout, but instead you stay centered and composed, it unsettles them. They don't know how to handle your strength because they expected a fight, not dignity. Calmness is also about protecting your own energy. Anger is exhausting. It drains your mental clarity and clouds your judgment. When you lose your temper, you might say or do things you later regret, which only makes the situation worse. But when you remain calm, you preserve control over your thoughts, your words, and your actions. You give yourself the ability to respond wisely instead of reacting impulsively. That difference between reaction and response is what separates people who are led by their emotions from those who lead their emotions. Another reason calmness is so powerful is that it commands respect. People may not agree with you, but they will notice your composure. They may not like you, but they cannot ignore your strength. A calm person under attack earns silent admiration, even from onlookers. They become an example of discipline in an environment of chaos. Leaders, mentors, and wise individuals throughout history have understood this truth. If you want to influence people, you must first control yourself. Now, staying calm does not mean staying silent all the time. It doesn't mean allowing people to walk all over you or failing to stand up for yourself. It means responding strategically with clarity and authority rather than lashing out emotionally. You can speak firmly without raising your voice. You can assert your boundaries without letting anger dictate your tone. That balance, strength without rage, confidence without aggression, is what makes calmness so effective. Consider how you feel when someone else loses their temper at you. Their anger often makes them look unstable or irrational, and their words lose credibility. But when someone addresses you calmly, even if they are confronting you, their words carry more weight. That's exactly why staying calm under pressure is so powerful. It allows your message to be heard, not drowned in noise. Of course, this doesn't happen automatically. Remaining calm when disrespected requires practice and self-awareness. You must train yourself to pause before responding, to take a breath, and to remind yourself that your dignity is more important than proving a point. Sometimes, it may help to walk away, not because you are weak, but because you refuse to waste your energy on battles that don't deserve your presence. That small pause, that decision to stay composed, can transform the outcome of the situation. Ultimately, calmness is control of yourself, your emotions, and the direction of the situation. When others expect you to fight but you choose peace, you take away their power. When they try to provoke you but you stay unshaken, you show that your strength is untouchable. Staying calm under pressure isn't about ignoring disrespect, it's about mastering yourself in the face of it. And that mastery is what earns you true respect, even from those who once tried to tear you down. Would you like me to now expand Keynote 3, Set Firm Boundaries, into 600 words so your series continues smoothly? You said, expand 3 Keynote into 600 words. ChatGPT said, you said expand 3 Keynote into 600 words. ChatGPT said, got it. I'll expand the 3rd Keynote. Set firm boundaries into about 600 words in a fresh way, making it powerful and practical. One of the biggest reasons people continue to disrespect others is because there are no clear consequences. Boundaries are the lines you draw to protect your dignity, energy, and self-respect. Without boundaries, you leave yourself open to being walked over, ignored, or treated unfairly. With boundaries, you send a message to the world: I value myself, and I expect to be treated accordingly. Setting firm boundaries is not about being rude. It's about creating a healthy standard for how others interact with you. When someone disrespects you, the easiest response is to either explode with anger or remain silent. Both extremes can work against you. Anger makes you appear reactive, while silence can be misinterpreted as approval. Boundaries offer a middle ground. They allow you to stand up for yourself calmly and clearly. For example, if someone constantly interrupts you, you can say, I would like to finish my thought before you respond. That statement is not aggressive, but it is firm. It sets the expectation that your voice deserves space. The first step in setting boundaries is knowing your limits. You need to define for yourself what you consider unacceptable behavior. Is it being shouted at, being mocked in public, being pressured into things you don't want to do? Once you identify those lines, you can begin to enforce them. The clearer you are about your limits, the easier it becomes to communicate them to others. The next step is expressing your boundaries in a way that cannot be ignored. Boundaries should be communicated directly, not hinted at. For example, instead of saying, I don't really like it when people talk to me that way, you could say, I will not continue this conversation if you keep speaking to me like that. Notice the difference? The second statement is clear, confident, and leaves no room for negotiation. Disrespect thrives in vagueness, but it weakens in the face of clarity. But words alone are not enough. Boundaries are only as strong as the actions that back them up. If you say you won't tolerate a behavior, but then continue to allow it, people will quickly learn that your words have no weight. For instance, if you tell a friend to stop making insulting jokes about you, but then laugh along or stay silent when they continue, you've undermined your own boundary. To be effective, boundaries require follow-through. This might mean walking away from a conversation, limiting your time with someone, or even ending a relationship if the disrespect continues. Boundaries are also an act of self-respect. When you enforce them, you're telling yourself that your peace and dignity are worth protecting. This strengthens your confidence over time. Each time you uphold a boundary, you reinforce the idea that you deserve respect. Conversely, when you let people trample over your limits, you slowly chip away at your own self-worth. Setting boundaries is not only about teaching others how to treat you, it's about reminding yourself of your own value. Consistency is another key factor. If you enforce your boundaries with some people but not others, you send mixed signals. People will test you to see if you're serious. But when you consistently enforce your boundaries in every situation, others begin to take you seriously. They may not like it, but they will respect it. Over time, you'll notice that people adjust their behavior when they realize you will not tolerate less than respect. Finally, boundaries are not walls, they are gates. They don't shut people out completely, but they regulate how people can come into your life. Those who are capable of respecting your boundaries will remain and build healthier relationships with you. Those who refuse will eventually fall away. Either way, you win, because you've chosen respect over disrespect, peace over chaos, and dignity over tolerance of mistreatment. Setting firm boundaries is not easy at first, especially if you are used to keeping quiet to avoid conflict. But the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. And once you start living with strong boundaries, you will notice a transformation: fewer toxic people around you, more respect from those who matter, and a deeper sense of peace within yourself. Do you want me to now expand Keynote 4? Build unshakable self-respect into 600 words? You said expand 4 Keynote into 600 words. ChatGPT said, great, let's expand the fourth keynote. Build unshakable self-respect into about 600 words. One of the most powerful defenses against disrespect is self-respect. When you truly value yourself, other people's insults, dismissive comments, or attempts to belittle you lose their power. Disrespect only cuts deep when you secretly doubt your own worth. But when you've built unshakable self-respect, no one's opinion or action can take away your confidence. Self-respect is the foundation upon which all other responses to disrespect are built. Without it, boundaries crumble, calmness fades, and silence feels weak. With it, every choice you make radiates strength. So, what does self-respect really mean? At its core, it is the belief that you are worthy of dignity, worthy of being heard, and worthy of being treated with kindness. It's not arrogance or pride. It's a deep acknowledgement of your value as a human being. When you respect yourself, you don't feel the need to prove your worth to those who try to tear you down. You don't chase validation from people who withhold it. Instead, you carry yourself with quiet confidence, knowing that your value is non-negotiable. Building unshakable self-respect begins with how you speak to yourself. The words in your mind shape the way you carry yourself in the world. If your inner dialogue is filled with self-doubt, harsh criticism, or constant comparisons, you'll be more vulnerable to disrespect. But when your inner voice affirms your worth, when you remind yourself of your strengths, your growth, and your dignity, you build an armor against negativity. Self-respect starts on the inside before it shows on the outside. The next step is aligning your actions with your values. Every time you compromise on your principles to please others, your self-respect takes a hit. But when you live in integrity, when your words and actions match what you believe, you strengthen the respect you have for yourself. For example, if honesty is a value you hold, but you lie to gain approval, you chip away at your self-respect. On the other hand, standing firm in your truth, even if it costs you someone's approval, builds unshakable confidence. Another crucial part of self-respect is self-care. This is not just about eating well or exercising, though those matter. It's also about how you manage your energy in relationships. When you prioritize your mental, emotional, and physical well-being, being, you send a message to yourself and others, I matter. This might mean resting instead of overworking, saying no instead of overcommitting, or walking away from toxic relationships. Every act of self-care reinforces your worth and teaches others to value you in the same way. Self-respect also changes the way you respond to disrespect. Instead of asking, why don't they like me? Or, what did I do wrong? You ask, why should I care about the opinion of someone who doesn't treat people with respect? This shift in perspective prevents you from internalizing negativity. You begin to see that someone else's inability to respect you does not lower your value. It only reveals their lack of character. But self-respect is not something you build overnight. It is strengthened over time through consistent choices. Every time you walk away from an argument, instead of lowering yourself to insults, you build it. Every time you speak up for yourself when someone crosses a line, you build it. Every time you refuse to settle for less than you deserve, you build it. Piece by piece, decision by decision, your self-respect grows until it becomes unshakable. Once you have unshakable self-respect, you no longer fear disrespect. Why? Because disrespect can no longer define you. It may sting for a moment, but it cannot touch your identity. You know who you are, and that truth remains solid no matter what others say or do. That is the ultimate power of self-respect. It gives you the freedom to rise above negativity and live with dignity no matter the circumstances. Would you like me to expand Keynote 50? Use silence as power into 600 words next. You said expand 5 Keynote into 600 words. ChatGPT said absolutely. Let's expand the 5th Keynote. Use silence as power into about 600 words. Silence is often misunderstood. Many people equate it with weakness, passivity, or avoidance, but in reality, silence can be one of the most powerful responses you can give when someone disrespects you. Not every attack deserves a counterattack, and not every insult requires an explanation. Sometimes the strongest message is not spoken. It's felt in the quiet confidence of your refusal to engage. When you learn how to use silence intentionally, it becomes a tool of dignity, strength, and control. Why does silence carry so much power? Because disrespectful people often thrive on reaction. They want to see you flustered, angry, or defensive. Your emotional reaction gives them fuel and, in their minds, a small victory. When you meet their disrespect with silence, you cut off their supply. You deny them the satisfaction of seeing you upset. Your calm, wordless response communicates something far louder than any angry comeback. You don't have the power to shake me. Silence also shifts the focus back onto the person being disrespectful. When you don't react, they are left alone with their behavior. Often disrespectful people use noise, arguments, or manipulation to distract from their own flaws. Your silence removes that distraction. It forces them to sit with their words and actions. Sometimes, the absence of your reaction makes them more uncomfortable than anything you could have said, but silence must be used with intention. There is a difference between silence out of fear and silence out of strength. Silence from fear comes from not knowing what to say or being too timid to respond. That type of silence encourages further disrespect. But silence from strength is different. It's a choice. It's deliberate. It communicates that you are in control of yourself and the situation, and you refuse to waste your energy on negativity. For example, imagine someone tries to provoke you in a meeting with a sarcastic remark. You could snap back, creating a scene that only makes you look emotional. Or you could pause, give them a calm, steady look, and continue with what you were saying. That silence doesn't just protect your dignity, it unsettles them because they expected to control the room with their jab, but your composure proved otherwise. Silence can also be a boundary in itself. By refusing to engage in arguments, gossip, or toxic conversations, you silently declare, I don't participate in this. Your withdrawal of words removes your presence from negativity. Over time, people learn that if they try to bait you with disrespect, they will only be met with calm silence and disinterest. This teaches others that disrespect is a waste of energy with you. It's important to note, however, that silence is not always the final answer. There are moments when words are necessary to set boundaries or protect yourself, but even then, silence can play a role. For instance, after calmly stating a boundary, I don't allow people to speak to me that way. You can follow it with silence. That silence reinforces the seriousness of your statement and prevents further debate. Another aspect of silence as power is self-control. Choosing silence requires discipline because the temptation to fire back when disrespected is strong. But each time you resist the urge to react, you strengthen your ability to stay composed under pressure. Over time, you begin to master your emotions instead of letting your emotions master you. This mastery is what gives silence its weight. In the end, silence is not emptiness, it is presence. It's the steady, unshakable presence that says, I do not need to fight to prove my worth. It's the refusal to let someone else's disrespect dictate your behavior. It's the calm assurance that your dignity speaks louder than your words ever could. When you use silence intentionally, you rise above the noise of disrespect and prove that true strength does not always shout, it often stands still, unshaken and silent. Would you like me to now expand Keynote 6C, teach people how to treat you, into 600 words? You said expand 6 Keynote into 600 words. ChatGPT said perfect. Let's expand the 6 Keynote, teach people how to treat you, into about 600 words. One of the most overlooked truths in life is that you teach people how to treat you. Every interaction, every response, and every boundary you enforce or fail to enforce sends a message. People quickly learn what they can and cannot get away with based on how you respond. If you allow disrespect to go unchecked, you unintentionally tell others that it is acceptable. But if you stand firm, assert your boundaries, and respond with strength, you train others to approach you with respect. Teaching people how to treat you begins with self-awareness. You must first decide what kind of treatment you are willing to accept. If you don't have standards for yourself, you leave it up to others to decide how they will treat you. Think of it like a house with no doors. Anyone can walk in, bring chaos, and leave a mess. Boundaries, standards, and self-respect are the doors and locks that protect your space. You are the one who decides who gets access and under what conditions. The way you react to disrespect sets the tone. If someone mocks you and you laugh it off, they learn that it's okay to joke at your expense. If someone constantly interrupts you and you stay quiet, they learn that your voice does not need to be heard. But if you calmly assert yourself, I'd like to finish my point before you respond. You teach them that your presence and your words matter. Over time, people adjust their behavior to fit the standards you consistently enforce. This is not about controlling others, it's about controlling yourself. You cannot make someone respectful if they choose not to be, but you can choose not to allow repeated disrespect into your life. By walking away from toxic conversations, refusing to engage in arguments, or distancing yourself from those who constantly belittle you, you send a strong message. If you cannot treat me with respect, you do not get access to me. That action alone often speaks louder than any words. It's also important to remember that teaching others how to treat you is not a one-time event. It's an ongoing process. People will test your boundaries, sometimes deliberately, sometimes unconsciously. Each time they do, your response reinforces the lesson. Consistency is key. If you demand respect one day but tolerate disrespect the next, you confuse people and weaken your standard. But if you consistently respond with calm strength, people learn very quickly that you mean what you say. Another powerful element of this principle is modeling. The way you treat yourself teaches others how to treat you. If you constantly put yourself down, neglect your needs, or tolerate unhealthy environments, others will mirror that. But when you carry yourself with confidence, speak kindly to yourself, and prioritize your well-being, others are more likely to follow suit. You set the example, and people respond to the energy you project. Some people will resist your standards, especially if they've been benefiting from your silence or compliance. They may push back, accuse you of being too sensitive or too difficult, or even try to guilt you into lowering your boundaries. This is where your strength matters most. By holding firm despite resistance, you teach them that you are serious about your worth. Those who truly value you will adjust. Those who don't will eventually fall away. And that is not a loss, it is a gain. Ultimately, teaching people how to treat you is about taking ownership of your life. You cannot control disrespectful people, but you can control how long you allow them to remain in your space. Every time you enforce a boundary, demand respect, or walk away from toxicity, you are shaping the way others interact with you. Over time, you will notice a powerful shift. Fewer people will try to disrespect you, and more people will approach you with the respect you've taught them to give. When you respect yourself and stand by that respect, the world learns to follow your lead. You don't have to shout, beg, or demand. You simply live your standards and people adjust. That is the essence of teaching people how to treat you. You set the example, you enforce the boundaries, and you make it clear that respect is the only language you accept.